Hi everyone, how are you? My name is Joji. I am a knitter from Buenos Aires in Argentina, and I very seldom record these YouTube videos. I hope you are very well. I didn't find my normal setup for my phone, so it's now just sitting somewhere, and I am hoping that it won't fall while I am showing you things. I apologize in advance if it moves at some point. As I mentioned, it's been a while since my last video, so I thought I would tell you that today is June 6, 2023. And it's we are getting to the winter time here in the southern hemisphere where I live, and it's a gloomy day. That's why I'm sitting next to the window to have as much natural light as possible. Today I'm going to show you some of the things that I have been working on, some of the projects that I've finished, and some of the designs that I'm writing and trying to get published. I am going to show you a sweater that I'm making for my dog, and yes, I'm going to be talking a bit about my personal life towards everywhere in this journal. I am not that organized. So yes, I think that we can start by showing you my latest finished object that is hanging here behind me. You haven't seen this in the journals before. It's a very quick shawl that I designed using yarn that was sent to me by my good friend Monica, and it's a pattern that I am working on. I just finished the pattern, so it should be ready for testing. By the time you see this video, it will be being tested, so I appreciate, but I probably won't need any testers by the time you see this. It's a really simple and mind disconnecting shawl. I used only 2 skeins of yarn. No, 3 skeins of yarn. So 1.5 skeins of the main color and 1 skein of the contrasting color, but I had partial skeins left over. Definitely you won't need all the full skeins. This yarn is something truly delicious. It's a mix of alpaca and Suri alpaca and silk. It's called Suri Monkey, and Monica's brand is Yarn Experiments. And I don't know why Monica chooses monkey names. I don't know the story behind the monkey in this brand, but her logo is a monkey, and I know that a lot of her names come from that cute animal. And yeah, so Monica and I have been chatting for many years now. She's originally from Mexico, so we communicate both in English and Spanish depending on the day, and she's always been super nice. Some years ago she actually designed a color palette based in Buenos Aires, the city where I live, and that was very special to me. She gifted me some of her colors for that collection, and actually I have already worked with her yarns. If you remember my design, I'm going to put here a photo called Circle of Friends shawl. It was made with her yarns, and those colors were part of that collection. For this shawl, I really wanted to do something soothing. This year I'm feeling not as upbeat as the past couple of years. There's nothing really going on. I think that I had really peaked in my mood maybe last year, and this year I am trying to start new things and I am trying to work more, but I am not accomplishing things as I would like to. So sometimes work gets really overwhelming with all the things that I have to do or I want to do and all the things that I want to finish. And this shawl, I wanted it to be some like a nice break in between. So it really was. I'm going to show it to you again once the pattern is finished, but it really achieved its purpose. It's a super easy pattern, and the yarn really gave me peace while I was working on it. It was almost as if Monica had sent her calming words with the yarn. The colors are called Pura Paz. The creamy color one is Pura Paz, and in Spanish that means pure peace. And the I don't know what it's like, a golden brown. The golden brown one is called Leo, and it just reminds me of my dog color, which is silly, but it's also not so silly. So I hope that this shawl can become a part of that little collection that I'm still working on. I am still collecting patterns to put together an ebook or maybe something else about fluffy yarns, and I didn't want all the yarns to be mohair. I've talked about this collection in many episodes because I've been collecting patterns for that. So I can't say that this will be available soon, but you can expect to have it with that collection. Lately, I've been thinking that it could be a good idea to have all these patterns launch when the fall comes and then have them be part of our annual fall knit along. So let me know if you think that's a good idea. I probably don't have time to do any paper printing, so it would have to be a digital issue, but let me know if you think that that could be something fun. I haven't named this design yet, but it's one that is very dear to me. And as I said, I hope to those who end up knitting this shawl, I hope it brings you a lot of peace. Yeah, and again, the yarn is called Suri Monkey, and the colors are Pura Paz and Leo. And I hope you go check out my friend Monica's yarn, because she's not huge, she's not a big company, but she's a huge-hearted person, and she makes the most stunning yarns. All her colors are very delicate and with great taste. Yeah, so that is my whip for today, my FO for today. I have a lot of finished objects that happened between my latest video and this one, but I don't want to bore you with a list of things that haven't been published yet. So this is what I'm going to show you today, and if I manage to do this more regularly now, then I will show you those finished objects as I start publishing those patterns. Yeah, okay, so I have 3 works in progress. I will start by the first one. It's the cutest one, and it's a dog sweater that I'm making for Perri, who, by the way, she's sitting here right behind me in her little bed, but I don't want to move the phone yet because I don't know that I can put it back where it is. But yeah, Perri is always by my side. You have seen Perri, I think it was 2 videos ago when I introduced her, and she is my now permanent companion. We do everything together except traveling, which is an issue, and I'll talk about that soon. But yes, Perri is always with me, and I am so lucky to have this new company in my life. So I was asked some time ago if I would ever knit a sweater for Perri. If you haven't heard her story, Perri is a female dog, and she turned up at our summer house neighborhood, and she started following me as I was doing my regular walks around the neighborhood, and those are really long walks. And I didn't want a dog, but somehow she decided to follow me, and I allowed her to step inside our backyard, not our home, but our backyard. And yeah, she just stayed, and after looking for her family for a couple of weeks and not finding anyone who was claiming her, and not finding anyone else who really wanted to adopt her, then we finally decided that she belonged with us, and she's now a very important part of our family. So yes, but this was in the summer when I adopted Perri, and it was very hot, and I honestly couldn't even think of Perri wearing a sweater with all her fur. She doesn't have a long coat, but I don't know, it never really gets too cold here in Buenos Aires. So I said, no, I'm not going to humanize this dog too much by, buying accessories that make her uncomfortable or knitting stuff for her that will also make her uncomfortable. But my thoughts changed as soon as it started getting cold, and because we do everything together and we go everywhere together, I started bundling up while Perri's still wearing her coat. And I don't think she's cold. I don't think she will get cold, but I thought, okay, maybe I should have a sweater for her that if I ever see her shaking or shivering, then I already have a sweater that I can put on her without having to go buy one in the impulse, because she is the pet of a knitter and she deserves a knitted coat. So I did not want to design anything for Perri because I have no knowledge on pets garments at all, and also I was heavily inspired by all the cute photos that started popping up with doggies wearing the new Westknits Pets Knits sweaters. My friend Stephen, Westknits, he has designed a whole array of doggy sweaters with different stitch patterns and in very inclusive sizes. And yes, I just bought the ebook with the whole Pets Knits collection, and I chose the Brioche pup sweater pattern by Westknits. So this is the sweater that I am now making for Perri. There are a couple of mistakes in my brioche. As you can see, there's one quite noticeable there. It bothers me quite a bit, but I think that when she wears it, it won't show as much. And I tried to fix it a few times and I couldn't, and I decided to just go on. If this was a pattern that I have to publish, then I will probably have frogged the entire thing, because this can't show up like this in the pattern photos. But I think that it will look absolutely fine on Perri. I think it won't show, and if it does, I will Photoshop the photos so that no one except you guys knows what happens. The pattern is exceptionally written, as all of Stephen's patterns. I really like the way he writes. I like that he includes tutorials to a lot of techniques, that if you need to check how to make an I-cord or how to work brioche stitches or techniques, then you can just link on the PDF and it directs you to the tutorials. The neckline starts with an I-cord cast on, which I haven't done in quite a while, so it was also a fun refresher for techniques that we can always do, and I love the way the neckline looks. And I am making size 5 for Perri. So in order to choose a size, you have to measure around her chest, and then Stephen has a schematic. I didn't print the schematic, but yeah, you can pick a size, and then he also gives you instructions on how to customize the size to better fit your pet. Look how cute. These are Stephen's doggies in his design, and I really liked it. Of course, I thought about the colors. I thought about them for a while, as I do. I don't get to knit other people's patterns often or almost ever, so I wanted to treat myself to this experience. This is truly something that I am enjoying and I am doing for me and my dog. So I didn't want to just grab whatever color as I would do with socks. Like with socks, I would say, oh, socks for Nano, what do I have laying around? Oh, yeah, this is good. Or, oh, I just need to cast on another sock because I'm traveling. And then I grab whatever skein of yarn calls me in the moment and I start. In this opportunity, I really wanted to either look for a color that matches Perri's colors. So I thought, okay, she's a golden brown dog, and I thought that an eggplant or a deep burgundy color would suit her really well, and that was initially what I was looking for. But then also I hate to say it this way, but it's almost like Perri is part of my home decoration, because Perri is always sitting and sleeping in my living room. She sleeps all day long. She's a very serene dog. We are active together, we train together, we're running very long distances together now, and she's enjoying it so much. But the rest of the time she's just chilling and like sleeping. Maybe she wakes up and asks you to feed her sometimes, but not often. We usually have to remind her that we need to go out for peas. Yeah, so Perri is actually a part of my living room styling, and so I thought, okay, how do I want her to look if she's going to be in my living room the entire time? I know, don't hate me, it's like thinking of a pillow, but it is true. So I thought of something neutral, something that wouldn't really bother me, because I am OCD like that. And so of course I picked black and white to make Perri her first sweater. If I ever make her a second one, like if I see her enjoying this a lot, then I will probably make her a second one, and I will maybe go for an aubergine or eggplant color. My second thought was, which color should I use for the dominant? So which color should be on the outside of the sweater, the black or the white? And it's not white, it's actually gray, but I chose the gray. I love the black, and I think it looked good. Would look better on her, the black, than the white. But also this will get a lot of her hair on, I am assuming. I don't know, I never had a dog who wears a sweater. But I am assuming that it will get some of her hair, and she has a lighter hair, so I thought I would be picking hair from her sweater all the time. I don't think it will show as much in the gray color, so that's why the gray dominant color is on the outside. And if you remember the photo I showed you, there's a little garter stitch band on the bottom of the sweater that is made with the dominant color, and I also don't want this to be black because I think that that's where I will see a lot of her hairs. Super enjoyable project, and I am using worsted and DK weight yarns. I think that the pattern is designed for DK weight. I chose worsted because that's what I had, and it's not a very heavy worsted anyway, so it's working really well. The gray is by Ritual Dyes, and the base is called Priestess. It's I think a 100% superwash merino, and the colorway is called Alabaster. And the black is a true black, and that's what I love about it. And this is Malabrigo Rios in the black color. So both combined are looking really well. I don't notice any weight or thickness difference that's significant enough. Yes, and as far as yarn consumption goes, I'm still, of course, going through my first skein, and I think I will be fine with just one skein of the black, but I might need a second skein of the Alabaster, especially because of the garter stitch band at the end of the jacket. Okay, that is work in progress number 1. How are you doing, Perri? ¿Cómo estás? Work in progress number 2 is tiny, and this was going to be my travel project, but I don't think I am going to bring this with me on my next trip, and I'll explain why. So, okay, let me first get it nice to show you, and let's find the right side. Okay, this is it, and yep, this is one of my current tiny small pieces that I am designing. When I went to New York City for Vogue Knitting Live this year, I met up with Kayla and Sam from Magpie Fibers, and they told me that they were launching or had just launched a new yarn called Plume. This is an exquisite yarn. It's 75% cashmere and 25% silk, and it comes in just a very, very small skein of 25 grams, sorry. So they didn't have much with them. They came in the train, and so they only brought a couple of things. So they gave me 2 single skeins and 1 in each color. And yes, so I had this at home, and you know, I always like to make small things that you can make using 1 skein of yarn. I usually like to make them for fingering weight, 400 yards, because that's what most of us have in our stash. But I also thought, nowadays we're seeing all these really luxurious blends, and I am working on this fluffy yarn project. So how about I make something that only takes 25 grams of this exquisite blend? And that's what I am doing now. I am designing a little neck piece. It will be as big as you can make it. So it's a bind off when you run out of yarn design. And my goal is to use only this skein of Magpie Fibers Plume, because that's exactly how much I have. The color is called Velvet Underground, and even though it's only 25 grams, this skein carries 315 yards of yarn. So here are the specs of Plume, and it feels like nothing. It's just so nice and soft, and it's just like a caress next to your skin. I am not bringing this with me, probably. I just might last minute, because the color is dark. It's darker than I thought, and I am having a harder time than I thought I would understanding my knits and purls. If you see here, I am doing a 2x2 ribbing, which I really like. I think it's, and I also am doing some lace, and then I will repeat the panels. I'll do another panel of ribbing and then another panel of lace and so on. And I thought of this as, okay, the ribbing is very urban, kind of masculine looking, and then the lace is this break in the basic, and I am very pleased. However, whenever I get to the ribbing part and it's kind of dark, it's hard for me to understand, unless I count the stitches, whether I have to knit or purl. And that's also because I am using a larger needle. I am using 4mm needles. And so I figured that if I will be on a plane or in a meeting or somewhere with other knitters, I don't want to be worrying about whether I am making a mistake. I want to bring something that really I don't have to look at. So even though this would be perfect, because I will probably finish this design while I'm still traveling, I think that it's not the best idea for me to bring with me. Okay. And my third and last work in progress is also with Magpie Fibers, and that is by chance or not. And it's a Colorwork sweater that I think I showed once or twice. Now it's almost done. Almost done is always too far from being done, right? Okay. I am super proud of this design. It's the first time that I am doing color work using 2 strands of mohair, no merino, just the mohair. And I am loving this thing so much. It weighs nothing. It's literally the warmest sweater and lightest sweater at the same time. And I love how the mohair really forgives any issues that you have with your tension. In color work are gone with the mohair. There's actually no tension. You can't see any stitches. It's just this fluffy, beautiful fabric that I love. I am proud of the charting that I did for this. I created a chart for the raglan increases. It will be a hard one to grade because I will have to develop charts for all the sleeves, at least for all the sleeve increases, or for the body increases. I don't know. I will have to adjust the charts. I think that all sizes can start with the same charts, but then normally when I grade a raglan design, at some point in the yoke, the sleeves and the body of the sweater start having increases made at different intervals. So for the smaller sizes, perhaps I increase more for the sleeves than I do for the body, and for the larger sizes, it's the other way around. So that means that I can't tell everyone, okay, continue working with this chart until you complete an X amount of rows. But I am okay with that. That happens with a lot of my patterns that I have to chart multiple times. I found a way to switch the colors in the patterns that I'm using in this sweater so that it looks like everything's different, but actually it's a repeat that uses a progression of the colors, and I'm very pleased with that result. And I think this is going to be a sweater that I personally am going to wear a lot if I am traveling. Probably never in Buenos Aires unless it's my jacket, which I sometimes do. I sometimes wear my sweaters as my jackets, but this thing is really, really warm. Shout out to my mom because I really want to have this thing finished before leaving to Italy on Friday so that I can send it to my test knitters. I don't think it's going to happen because actually I have to block the sweater and measure it before I can actually grade it properly to make sure that my sample is going to look like what I expect. I don't know if it happens if you're a designer and this happens to you, but I make my swatch and I design my sample, and when I finish my sweater, it really should measure what I aimed for, and 99% of the times it does. But 1 out of every 100 sweaters that I've made was completely different. It ended up being super big or super long or super whatever. And I don't want to say in my pattern that my sample measures something when actually my sample measures something else. And it's the same with my test knitters. If I send them a pattern and they say, okay, if I follow these instructions, my sweater is going to measure 40 and then it measures 44, then they are one size up or down. So I don't know if this time around I will wait for my own sample to be finished. I am now in conditions to actually write the pattern, but yeah, I was really rushing trying to get things done before my trip, and my mom helped me. So my mom helped me knit this cuff, and she helped me knit this hem, which is a lot of 2x2 ribbing. Shout out to my mother. And she's amazing. So now I am doing the color work for the second sleeve, and I probably will leave this with her when I go to Italy so that she finishes the other cuff. So that is my knitting, my finished objects, and those are the projects that I'm currently working on. Okay, I also have some, I have some notes, and I also have some dream knitting that I would like to start. This week I made a swatch for a new jacket, cardigan, coat that I want to start, and it will have to wait until I come back. I won't be able to bring this with me because it will be too heavy, but I used any stitch pattern. I'm not going to use this stitch pattern for my design. I just watched some bubbles and some cables and some ribbing and double stitch, and I wanted to get an assortment of stitch patterns that kind of might look similar to what I plan to use, so that I can get a sense of what my combined stitches gauge is, and then I can just start creating my own stitches for this design. The yarn that I will use for this is this beautiful sweet fiber cashmerino wool. So nice. This was yarn that I purchased pre-pandemic, of course. No, I have a lot of yarn post-pandemic. I went to Knit City in Vancouver in 2018 when there was still no Knit City Montreal. The only one was in Vancouver on the West Coast, and Sweet Fiber was one of the vendors there. Her booth was mobbed, and I am not ashamed of this. Because I was teaching all day, I was allowed, and all teachers, we were allowed to get into the marketplace 30 minutes prior to the opening time so that we could say hello to all the companies. But I went straight to Sweet Fiber's booth, and I remember this was so much fun. I was looking at her yarns, and I really like her color aesthetics. So I was picking yarn and then putting it back, and trying to make my mind. And her mom is really sweet. Her mom owns a yarn store in the area too. And so she came close to me and she said, if you're thinking about getting that, don't wait until the doors open because it will be gone. And it really was. The first day the marketplace opened, when I finished my first class and I went back in the lunch break, this booth was nearly empty. By noon, the first day, she had absolutely almost completely sold out. I don't think she went home with any skeins of yarn. It was something really amazing to see. So this is a worsted weight, cashmerino worsted. It's 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon. It's a 200 yards per 100 gram skein, so it's quite thick. I use a 4.5 or US 7 millimeter needle for my swatch, and it looks fine. It doesn't look too open. I am going to use this needle size. So it's quite a thick, I wouldn't say it's a bulky, but it's on the thicker side of the worsted weight range. And my favorite part is that it has a super tight ply. It's super bouncy. So it's really perfect for a cable design. The color is called ochre, and I think I have 7 skeins of this. So I'm going to make a longer cardigan. Not super long, but not cropped either. Okay, so that's going to be cables, and I also wound up yarn in a very similar color. This is the color of the season for Joji because I used a similar color here, and then I showed you the sweet fiber, and I'm going to show you now what I wound up to use yesterday. These beauties came with me from Norway during my latest trip. I am absolutely madly in love with the delicacy of the color. It's not as gold, it's not as yellow as the sweet fiber. Here are the two compared. So this is more golden yellow and this is more brownish, but it's still gold. And I want to make a sweet cardigan that pairs well with a lot of my black clothes. Every time I travel for teaching or other opportunities, I normally wear black clothes. So maybe a black t-shirt and black trousers or a black dress. And I would knit myself a black sweater, of course, but it's like the black sweater never achieves the purpose of being purely black somehow. Like I really want the black sweater, but they are never black enough to be admired by me as a black sweater. And they don't look really enticing when you look at a black sweater. I don't feel like, oh, I really want to knit this for some reason. So, in fact, I have a couple of store-bought black sweaters that I don't wear that much. It's like, okay, I'm cool wearing black tops, pants, jacket, coats, beanie, but the sweaters, the black sweaters I've made, I don't wear them that much. And I think this color will actually go really well with black. I think it's very classy, elegant, and I can't wait. So I think this is going to be a lacy cardigan. It's going to be simple lace, but it's going to have a lot of it so that it's really delicate and it shows the black clothes underneath nicely. And I am going to use the simplest construction that I ever use for my sweaters. I was actually wearing this, and now I'm a bit warm now that I'm recording, but this is my Like a Cloud cardigan that was released also in 2018, and It's one of my dearest designs and one of my easiest to wear cardigans. And my goal is with the golden yarn to create something, I'm trying to remember this today, to create something that it's really easy to wear with black and that covers my behind a little bit and that is super relaxed and also easy to knit. I have used this construction many times, but like Cloud has this construction. Recently, La Prairie cardigan also has this construction. Monstera with cables. And trying to think if something thicker. Those are all like lace weight to sport weight sweaters. I don't know if I used it for heavier weight designs. Similar would be all of the lights. I think it has a similar fit, but it's constructed differently. But I think it has a similar fit in the back. I think it has like the V in the back. There's like a little V that's formed there where the front's open. Anyway, so this is today's featured pattern because I wanted to show it to you to explain the construction that I want to use for my dream knitting. And also because it has to do with a new class that I am trying to develop, and I would love to hear your ideas about it. And lastly, I am debating which one to use, but I also want to make, also want to use the similar construction with a much heavier weight. So I am considering either of these. Okay, here's the deal. It was announced last week that I will be one of the teachers for a retreat organized by Knit Social or Knit City in Pender Island in the west coast of Canada, very close to Vancouver. And the other teacher is my friend Olga Buraya-Kefelian, and we will be hosting, I think it's 36 attendees, and I am planning to teach a class on how to design your own cardigan, like the one I'm wearing, like a Cloud, like La Prairie, and so on. I want to have 3 hours with the knitters where I can give them confidence to measure themselves and use any stitch pattern or any gauge they want to, and be able to make the calculations to design their own cardigan. For this class, I chose this construction because then I don't have to talk about short rows or more complicated features of pattern design. It should be really simple to write whatever my students come up with. And I also want to show them some more examples of this construction, even if they don't necessarily have to knit the sweaters that I'm planning to design. I want to have a couple more designs that use that construction so that they can see how they can apply different gauges and fabrics to this structure. So, as I mentioned, one of the designs is going to be the single ply. Oh, by the way, I never told you what this is. This is Norne Yarns. This company is owned by another good friend of mine called Tuva, and this is their singles. It's a merino, silk and yak mix, 65% superwash merino, 20% silk and 15% yak. And the skeins are 120 grams, 480 meters. So these are bigger skeins than usual. I don't know how much my design will take. I have 4 of these, so I should be able to make a very long piece. And for the super bulky version, it's not going to be a version of the same pattern. It's going to be a different pattern, probably a super simple one. I have 2 options that I am considering. The first one is this chunky MCN by Moondrake Company, and the color is Rainforest. This is an 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon, and it's 94 yards, which comes up to maybe like 85 meters per 100 skein, 100 gram skein, so quite chunky. And the second option, both colors are green, but super different types of olive green. The second option is this Cardo, I think it's thistle in English. I don't remember that word. It's one of those wild, spiky flowers that grow in the countryside. Here in Argentina, if you drive on the routes, then you will see these pink, spiky flowers called cardos in Spanish. It's a common name for anything like wild grass, I would say, that has thorns. And this is 100% Corriedale wool. It's definitely not itchy. The name implies differently, but it's a very soft yarn. I really like it. I have been working with a Corriedale for my red sweater recently, and I really like it. It's also 109 yards, so a bit more yardage per skein than the Moondrake. And this one quotes a gauge of 11 to 13 stitches per 10 centimeters. I don't remember the colorway name, and it's not written here in the tag, but it's this olive green. Yeah, so decisions. This is interesting because I haven't worked with a variegated yarn in a while, and this is more variegated than my usual semi-solids. So this could be really interesting, but I would wear this color a lot. So I don't know. I'm still deciding. So that is my dream knitting. I also should probably cast on something small for the trip. I have no idea what that's going to be. Perhaps a cowl or a pair of socks for my fluffy yarns collection. We'll see. We'll see. I am going to travel to Italy this Friday with my son. I am flying Buenos Aires, Rome, and I'll arrive on Saturday morning. Then we're taking the train and we're spending a day and a half in Verona. And I'm just trying to find something to show you here. And then on Sunday, we're taking the train to Cavallese region in northern Italy, in the Dolomiti area. The northern mountains in Italy are called the Dolomites. And I will be the teacher for a retreat with Mayak, which I'm so grateful for. I get to experience these things that are a true treat for me. And I get to do that for work. Obviously, I choose these places to work because they are places that I would really love to go to myself. And of course, the experience for me, it's part of the pay. And in this opportunity, I get to bring my 16-year-old son, Mariano, who will be probably having his own adventures while I am teaching the workshops, and then he will hang out with us. I know that there's going to be a couple of active activities. So I think that we're going to visit a mountain. I think that it's not going to be a hard hike, but we're going to go hiking together, and that's really something that I enjoy with any group I did a knitting group hike last year with my group for Vogue Knitting Live Retreat. Not everyone came, but most of the attendees came, and it was fantastic. A really, really fantastic experience. People from everywhere and of all ages, of all abilities. We were all helping each other, and it was a truly, truly magnificent hike, and I hope that we have a similar experience this time in Italy. And I can't wait for people to actually get to know one of my sons. I always talk about him and my other son, Sebi. So I hope that people will enjoy his presence, and he's a very opinionated young man. So I hope that people get to enjoy speaking with him, because he's quite interesting. For this opportunity, I also am developing a new class, and these classes are not going to be exclusive to these retreats that I am talking about. I plan to have them in my rotation for whenever I start. I am starting to teach a lot again, so I'll be talking about a lot of trips that I'm going to make, and these are only the first times that I'm teaching those classes, but I will be teaching them again in multiple events, don't worry. For this event, I will be, of course, doing a workshop on sweater fit and measurements and adjustments, but also I am planning a new class on how to embellish cables. So the design that I will be launching next week for the everywhere, but the people at the retreat are going to receive it first, contains similar stitch patterns to this here in the yoke. So my class is going to be focused on how to embellish or make these cables more interesting if you want to. And these are all afterthought techniques that you don't have to decide when you're making the sweater. With the sweater finished, if you want, you can add some of these techniques to your sweater. So I am making I-cords. For that. I am also doing a little bit of boho embroidery, and there is going to be more fun to be had at the retreat. So that's traveling. After the retreat is finished, Mariano and I will be renting a car, and we are going to do a mother-son trip, and we're going to hike in Cortina d'Ampezzo area for 2 days. And finally, we're going to return to Rome with the car. We're going to drop the car and spend 2 days in Rome, my son's favorite place in the world, and then we're going to fly back home. So in total, it will be a 10 days experience that we get to enjoy together. I am so looking forward to that. I'm so grateful that I get to do this with my son. I know that everything's going to be fine. I'm slightly stressed about this trip, just because I want it to be so nice for all of us, and especially for everyone at the retreat. I know that this is causing a lot of the anxiety that I'm feeling these days, but it's for good reasons, and it's because I really care about all of what's going to happen. So I'm trying to be kind to myself. I'm trying to say, okay, you did well. You're ready for this. You prepare the patterns. You prepare the workshops. You prepare yourself to be with your son. You prepare a lot, and trying to remember that before I get even worse. I know many of you get it, and I know many of you don't, but I know you all care about me, so I appreciate you for that. Okay, let me see what else I wanted to talk about today before I leave you guys. I don't know if you received my newsletter, but it turns out that last week I sent out a newsletter. I think the last time I sent one was about 6 months ago. So if you haven't signed up for my newsletter, please do. I always send a little discount code in them, and I am starting to write a column on knitters self-care, and I talked a bit about mindfulness when I knit in that newsletter. And next time I'm going to talk about wrist care. So yeah, I'm trying to also do that more often. We'll see if I can manage to do so. And then, yeah, I think that the only remaining topic for me is to talk about my training, which is a big part of my life ever since 2021, after the pandemic. I've been trying to be active every day. I've been trying to run and get my body really strong, and I am struggling a little bit with motivation lately. I have set some goals for this year, and they are not exactly near, so that is also something that's hard when you have a goal, but it's not next month or in 2 months, but it's later on. It's hard to stay motivated to get to the point where you are strong enough to finally do the last cycles of training for that goal. I am running quite a lot, but I haven't been so consistent with my strength training, and that means that I am feeling it a lot more in my joints, in my knees, in my ankles, and that is not something that I would recommend, especially not to any women above 40 like I am. So one of my decisions a couple of weeks ago, I decided that I would run less and lift more. And so my joints are not so sore, but now all my muscles are sore. So I suppose that, I don't know, I don't like the fact that I am sore or hurting a lot, but it kind of feels like that's how it's going to be this year. Or at least I will have to go through that period when, you know, it's maybe 2 months when you start lifting weights or, you know, doing all your strength routines, that your muscles get very sore until they finally get used to it, and your joints don't hurt, but your muscles don't hurt either. I am looking forward to that stage. I am also trying to cycle more. I know that I want to have the cardio benefits of a lot of running because I'm preparing a long distance race for the end of the year, so I don't want my cardio fitness to drop. But I can feel that if I continue to increase mileage in my running, I will probably burn myself out before I'm able to train for this race. So I am cycling more, and last weekend I joined my husband, my cousin, and another friend, and we did a 105-kilometer ride. It's my longest ride ever, and I felt so tired right after that I thought that I had a fever because of it. I was just very tired. I didn't have a fever, but I was so tired. And the good thing is that this ride was on Sunday, and I don't hurt. Nothing hurts. Like really, nothing hurts, which is something that I don't get with running. Every time I do a very long run on the weekends, then in the afternoon or the next day, there's something sore. Either it's my lower back or my knees or my ankles. With this very long cycling cycle, nothing hurts. So 2 thumbs up for cycling and cross training. And yeah, and now that I'm going to Italy, I will have to find a way to sneak in all the workouts that I need to do in the week, in between sessions or very early in the morning. I don't mind waking early, but I never really have enough time to do the long workouts, even if I wake up super early. So we'll see. I think that's it. We are an hour into this journal. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to hearing what you think about everything. Thank you for being here. Be kind to yourself, like I'm trying to do this week, and see you next time. Bye bye.